Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. Bugsy Malone's over my shoulder. She's already ruined 4 videos with her incessant barking. Hopefully she's gone for a little swim or something to give me a few minutes to get this story out for you. We've got a massive update today, a couple of really big, juicy stories. A new player, a player that makes you go rat-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. In Bradley Barcola. We're going to come to that one in a minute, guys. We've also got updates from Football Insider, some decent outlets, to be entirely honest, that are mentioning very, very serious news for Tottenham Hotspur. Before we get into it, guys, please smash the like button if you enjoy these Tottenham transfer news, views, and clues updates. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We're on the march to 31k. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. By the way, thank you very much for all of your like game recently. It's been incredible. We're getting back to the realms of 1,000 likes a video, and it just does amazing things for the channel. So I very, very much appreciate your support. Let's start with this one. CF Bayern, probably the biggest Bayern Munich related Twitter page, has said that Tottenham are now increasingly confident of signing Leroy Sane this summer, and they are leading the race. Sane's agent, Pinny Zahavi, wants his client to join Spurs. Daniel Levy is pulling the strings to take Sane, however you say it, to London. Now, we know that he wants to be in London. We know that he wants to come back to the Premier League. He's looking for his big final contract. Obviously, Bayern Munich, the noise out last night was that they had attempted to sign Sane, and that he, they couldn't match his wages. Now, I mentioned this on a live stream yesterday. It might be a conspiracy theory, but then, according to all these reports that I'd seen through various Bayern Munich Twitter pages, that they had said, like the CEO, Hernes, I think his name is, of Bayern Munich, has said, well, look, we're not going to go anymore. We're not going to change our offer. It's up to him if he wants to take it or not. And he's obviously decided against it. And then, of course, Tottenham have now become front and centre for his signature, which is being confirmed here by CF Bayern. Bayern Munich allegedly yesterday then went back to Pinny Zahavi and said, OK, we'll meet you in the middle and we'll move our number up a little bit. Something that wasn't well received by Bayern Munich fans in the comment section of those pages that were reporting it. They're saying that it sets a horrible precedent, and we shouldn't be held over a barrel by Pinny Zahavi, the super agent, and by a player that, you know, is trying to get as much money as he possibly can. I think that the reason why Bayern Munich were doing it is because Bayern Munich had probably rested on their laurels and were hoping that Tottenham were going to take Matthias Tell, and in so doing, wind down most of the money that's owed to us by them for Harry Kane. But if we have Sane, we don't have to pay Bayern Munich anything. And so this might just be incredible. Excuse me 1 second, I'll be off screen. This might just be incredible bit of negotiation and business from Daniel Levy if it's true. What I would say is it speaks volumes, I think, of their desire to get Matthias Tell off their books. And maybe we should have, maybe me personally, should have another think really about whether or not he was the right guy. As I have been saying, I do think there's a real player in there, but I can't really justify the argument based on his stats because his stats are not sensational. However, if we do get Leroy Sane, then, and Pinny Zahavi is pushing that sort of message and pushing that notion forward, that's an incredible start to the kind of marquee summer that we're looking to have, and he would immediately be coming as the new club's highest earner, getting something like £250,000 to £275,000 a week, and that is, of course, excluding any agents' fees and player signing bonuses. But when you crunch the numbers on the deal, it really doesn't sort of become too problematic because you're not paying 50 or 60 million pound in a transfer fee as well. We crunched numbers on yesterday's show if you want to go back and check that out. In other news, guys, we're going to move on. Insight Consultancy Limited, according to a guy called Jono Stew J87 is his handle on Twitter. I'll put the tweet up if I can. Has come out with a tweet, and I think this guy actually spent some time in the comment section on the channel. So if you are watching this, Jono, please sort of let us know if there's any more to it, or if this is just something that you've read and you're retweeting. But he says Insight Consultancy Limited, which is used as an intermediary when it comes to legalities and contract in football, are reporting that Spurs have agreed a £7 million severance with Postecoglou. They've always been pretty reliable, and it's who Levy consulted when sacking both Jose and Conte. That's interesting. So if that's true, then are we kind of on the cusp of waiting for confirmation that Ange Postecoglou is not going to be the manager next year? And if so, where do we go with that next? Now, as you know how I feel about Ange Postecoglou, Bugsy, come off the road, please. I personally don't think that he, does have enough in his locker to be able to take us forward, but I understand if the club were deciding to keep him. And for me, it's a 50-50. I understand why the fan base on both sides of that particular argument feel as strongly as they do. It's completely fine for me if the club do decide to go in that direction. However, if they have decided to sack him, then you have to ask, well, who do you go to next? And my contention is always, don't bring me a problem. If Ange is the problem in some people's eyes, bring me the solution. Who is the solution? Well, one person it's probably not going to be is Simone Inzaghi, who allegedly, according to all reports on Twitter last night, has agreed to join Saudi Arabia, or he's flying rather to Saudi Arabia straight after tonight's Champions League final to figure out whether or not he wants to sign on that £25 million a year payment. Now, if he wins, does he want to stay? Is he more likely to stay? If he loses, is he more likely to go? Who knows? But either way, Tottenham won't be able to compete with him, with Saudi Arabia on money. And if he wins and wants to stay at one of the big, or the European champions, then Tottenham really can't compete on that. Even though we are our own version of European champions, we're not the European champions as far as the credibility stakes go. So I think we can safely chalk off Inzaghi. Now, where else do you go? Well, according to a lot of reports that I've seen last night on Twitter, Thomas Frank is apparently the front and centre favourite now. He's also the favourite with the bookmakers to take over at Tottenham should Postecoglou be relieved of his duties. And to me, I've got to be entirely honest, I'm not sure that I want the risk of continuity is for sure real, but the risk of change is very real, especially for a guy who, I'll be honest, as much as I can rate his tactical adaptations, he hasn't won anything in his career. I don't think he's ever qualified for Europe, maybe once. And so I'm just not sure that the juice is worth the squeeze on that one. I'm not particularly blown away by it, but we'll see where we go. That's the biggest story, though, is that if it is going to be a new change, it will likely be for Thomas Frank, which is very, very interesting. Now, here's a more, not interesting story, maybe more exciting one. I'm not entirely sure if this one's actually going to have any merit to it, but El Nacional in France are reporting that Newcastle, Arsenal and Tottenham have shown strong interest in PSG winger Bradley Barcola, an absolute baller of a player, someone who can legitimately play as a 9 if needed, and certainly off the wings as well, and is, I mean, for me, just an absolute disgracefully excellent player who plays so well in that system. And apparently he's only valued at £42 million, 22, 23 years old. I'll put his stats up on the screen. An absolute, I mean, it's a story you love to read. How true it is, I don't know, but it is getting around in the various Twitters that are retweeting it. El Nacional, I'm not aware of how strong they are as a source. It sounds like it could be a newspaper in France, but I honestly don't know. El Nacional is the name. It might not even be in France. Maybe El Nacional actually might be somewhere else. I don't know. But it sounds like it's a newspaper-esque, type-esque name. But they're saying that Newcastle, Arsenal and Tottenham are all showing interest in the 23-year-old, 22-year-old, and he's £42 million, a player that you'd love to see. Another new name for you guys, Christian Mosquera, centre-back for Valencia, 20 years old. One of the hottest properties coming out of that part of Spain. Has been linked with Tottenham. And Tottenham apparently have been showing and monitoring the player for weeks under Johan Langer's guise of keeping everything close to his chest, and that apparently our interest has firmed up in the last sort of week and a half, but at the moment RB Leipzig are front and centre and ahead of Tottenham in any interest in the player. Look, he's another player that, you know, I have absolutely no issues getting on board with. I just don't think we're going to do it. When you hear about a name very late on and they're already in personal term agreement stages with a club like RB Leipzig, you know, it really doesn't sound like it's something that we're going to be able to step in at the last minute and gazump. Although Tottenham do have history recently in the last year or two of being able to take on some teams in Europe and being able to find the pitch. But does the pitch require Ange Postecoglou's voice? Well, that's maybe going to be part of our armoury, our weaponry, if you like, that won't be available for us much longer if those stories around Insight Consultancy are in fact true. Let's move on, guys, with the next story of the day for you. According to Wyness, I think we've spoken about Wyness many times on this channel. I think his name's Keith Wyness. He's ex-Everton, ex-Aberdeen CEO, and someone that, to be honest, I've lost a little bit of credibility or respect for with some of the waffle that he speaks about on Football Insider. When he gets hired out, he was saying the other day that Tottenham are prime candidates to start an NBA franchise and becoming the European, starting a European league of basketball that would be like a second division to the NBA. I mean, I don't even know why that guy's talking about it, because there's so many things wrong with that story. The Tottenham Hotspur Stadium would not fit a basketball arena. It's a different size pitch. Obviously, it's different size shape. And there's a reason why basketball isn't played in football arenas in America. So that whole thing doesn't make sense. On top of that, obviously the notion that there would be a second division in Europe when they have the college draft system is laughable. So when you start hearing this guy saying things, but obviously he does come with certain pedigree of credibility because of his historical work. I also remember him getting the 70% threshold entirely wrong with regards to UEFA rules. But either way, I'm going to tell you what he says. He says that Marquee will be signing, quote, will be going to Tottenham Hotspur this summer. He doesn't give any real justification for it apart from just saying that's what's going to be happening. So I don't believe that will be the case now that Atletico Madrid are seemingly or not wealthy enough or not liquid enough to be able to afford a Christian Romero story. And if we do keep hold of Romero, are we really going to be able to convince Marquee? If we can, we'd love to see it, right? I'd love to see it. Imagine if we could get the kind of calibre of signings, the marquee signings done of Eberechi Eze, who we're going to come to in a minute, and also Leroy Sane, and also Marquee. You're talking about possibly 2 transfer records and 3 new club's highest earners, and maybe if Romero gets his contract renewal as well, then who knows? It could be just one of those summers. It doesn't feel like it. It would take you have to break the habit of a lifetime for that to be the case, but you never know. You never know. Here's the story from Mick Brown, former scout. He says that Eze. The talks are planned between Tottenham and Crystal Palace. He's saying this to Football Insider. Again, a source that, you know, has credibility. I wouldn't say they're the same as the top tier like the Independents and the Telegraphs and those sorts of guys, but it's certainly on that second tier. Football Insider is saying that that Mick Brown is saying that the talks are planned between Tottenham and Crystal Palace after agent talks have already taken place that were promising. So if there's truth to that, then Eberechi Eze looks like there's willingness on his side. If that's being referenced and represented by the agent that he wants to come to Tottenham. Crystal Palace are now supposed to be scheduling talks with Tottenham, and we'll see what comes of it. Obviously, they have the buyout clause, so ultimately, if Tottenham really want this to be done, it doesn't really matter what Crystal Palace say. The only problem is that the structure of that deal requires that Tottenham or anyone else would have to pay all 65 million. I think it's 65 million in one lump sum up the top. And from a cash flow perspective, that is incredibly problematic. I'd very much doubt that that's the case. Would Eze put his feet up? Would he kind of cause any trouble or problems for Crystal Palace to kind of force a move? I doubt it. He doesn't seem like that sort of guy. I know he's a very religious guy, so I doubt he'd be kind of insulting to that in that regard to a team that has offered him so much as he has provided for them as well. And let's hope that doesn't come to that, but let's hope that there's willingness between Parish and Levy to meet in the middle and find some sort of compromise and convivial terms, although both of those guys are very difficult negotiators, so I can't imagine it would be too difficult. Just to get back onto the Ange thing, Robbie Keane was speaking on TalkSport, guys, and said that he can't obviously overlook the fact that the Premier League season has been so poor, and that a lot of people are going to be focusing on that. But for him, he is backing Ange after the win and saying that he should be given more time, and that he would be more likely to find success than other people that are on that tier list. And I completely agree with him, by the way. Like, as much as I don't really sort of jive with Ange Postecoglou anymore, I've kind of fallen out of love with the wordsmith, or at least the words within the wordsmith. What I am very much on board with is that anyone but him is just a silly notion, and that I'm only on board a change, the disruption, the risk of change, the fear of new, the disruption to that potential dressing room, the energy behind it. I think that all of those things means that you only take that chance if you can find a very suitable next guy. And like I say, if Inzaghi's off the list, Oliver Glasner's come out and said it's 99% likely that he's going to be staying. Obviously, he's left a little bit of room there for a change, and it's also something that you're going to say. You're not going to be talking up for a new job when you're still in an old job. But if he is essentially writing it off, if he is essentially truthful and sincere when he says that, then you can chalk him off. Even Marco Silva, who's on the list of people I don't want, he said that he's staying at Fulham. There's really kind of very few names left on that shortlist where I would be sitting there thinking 100% go and get it. I guess Xavi is one such name. But we haven't really heard anything about that one for quite a while. Let's move on, guys. Mr. McAtee, one of Manchester City's youth team. That name won't go away. It keeps coming back. Every couple of days, it seems to get into another aggregator and then eventually eats its way into the world of TalkSport and, of course, the world of the written journals. So McAtee is a young guy who can play a little bit everywhere, really. He's a really useful player, but a creative technician, and someone that I'll be entirely honest, I've heard massive things about, but whenever I've actually watched him, I haven't really been that blown away by the performances that I've seen. But certainly a player that comes with a lot of high hopes and a lot of potential. English, homegrown, yada yada yada, counts in all the right ways. But Tottenham have to be careful here. We need to make sure that we're getting those numbers correct, especially for the non-homegrown, for the club trained role. Because on that note, guys, we have actually said goodbye to Fraser Foster, to to Alfie Whiteman and to Serge Reguilon. Their contracts have expired and they leave the club today. And Alfie Whiteman obviously was one of our club trained. So it becomes a tiny bit more difficult to be able to field those 7 players that are club trained and homegrown without his access to the squad, even though he was never going to play. We wish him well. We wish Fraser Forster well as well, and Serge Reguilon, a player that I never really understood why it was that he didn't get more chances at Tottenham, because whenever I saw him, I always liked his effort, I always liked his buy-in, and also I thought when he went on loan to various places, he never let himself down. I'm sure he'll go on to do some good things for the rest of his career, and we wish him well. Is that about it for me, guys? Gahey, we've done the Gahey, we've done McAtee, we've done Bradley Barcola. By the way, like I say, Bradley Barcola, if that one, is there any truth to that? Yes, please. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Oh, sorry, there's last one. There's a story from Football London. Here, that is saying, his name is Kieran Horn, who put the article out. He's saying that the deals are agreed. The deals are agreed. I didn't actually get to the bottom of the article because I was in a hurry because Bugsy was driving me mental. But the article says that the deals are agreed for Eberechi Eze and Bryan Mbeumo. So again, couldn't get to the sort of the meat of the article to find out what the actual context were. But the title of the article said that the deals are agreed for two major players at Tottenham. One of them is, and then I looked into it, and then 2 names mentioned were Eze and Mbeumo, but I didn't get to the meat of it, so it could be a bit of a clickbait, I don't know. But look, again, all the noise right now is pointing to Eberechi Eze is interested in coming. The agents have had conversations. Now it's time for Tottenham and Crystal Palace to figure it out. Bryan Mbeumo, if that one's true as well, then we love to hear it. But maybe this is Fabio Paratici doing what Fabio Paratici does, even though he's not quite here yet, spinning a lot of plates. Do we really need Leroy Sane and Bryan Mbeumo? If you do, then what does that mean for Sonny? What does that mean? And are you going to play Sane off the left-hand side? Are you going to put him out there and compete? Does it kill the Matisse Tell story? If that's the case, what does that do for the relationship with Bayern Munich? Because they might be one of the few clubs around Germany, or around Europe rather, that have still got a kind of very convivial relationship with Tottenham Hotspur. But I think that there's some truth to why they went back to the drawing board. They don't want Tottenham to be accelerating their interest in Sane, because if they do, it puts a nail in the coffin of a player that they presumed and assumed that Tottenham would be paying for, maybe not £50 million, maybe 25 or 30, but they clearly don't want Matisse Tell. They clearly want to raise some money. And if Tottenham go down the pathway of Leroy Sane, then we certainly don't need Matisse Tell. And I'll be a little bit sad for Matisse Tell, because as much as most of you don't, as much as I can vibe with most of you that you don't think he's done a lot in the output stakes, I really like the player. I think he's got a good heart on him, a good head on him. I think he's got a lot of progression. I think he will become a very, very talented player. But I hear the argument that we don't need players that are potential for tomorrow. We need players that are ready now. And maybe Bradley Barcola is another one of those sorts of guys. You know, he is a phenomenal one. Check out those stats I put on the screen earlier, hopefully for you. And we'll see. Mark Gahey, done deal as well. Don't know about that, but that's the story that's coming out. Lots of names. Let me know your thoughts, guys. And we'll leave it there. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, bye-bye.